Hello, welcome to the Prepared Mind channel. Good to see everybody back here. It's good to know everyone's back here. Thank you very much for the support. Before we get to this video, which is the rest of the questions, comments, suggestions, ideas, concepts, etc. that you guys sent into Jolene, I want to make a statement about being who we are as individuals and why it's important. I have always wanted to be the man that I am and to be the man that I was put here to be. I was put on earth to be me, not to be what other people want or hope or demand, right? So I am who I am as a result of a lot of different things, but I'm going to be who I am. I can call me a sexist. You can say I'm too crass or too rough or too coarse. I'm too this, I'm too that. But I have made my life mine, who I am as a man. And I wish, and I really wish all men and women would be who they are supposed to be, who they know they are in the inside. You know, where they feel it. I wish people could be that. And I think that preppers are a lot more of that than anyone else. They're more genuine because we're taking a road less traveled and it's harder to be what we are. We'll touch on that in some questions here. Not only being who we are is something I wish more people could be, but being real, being the person, well, who you're meant to be, an individual responsible for self, instead of belonging to some collectivist hive mind, I'm not responsible for me mindset. It's repugnant, it's repulsive, it's disgusting to me. To continue to see that and see the entire nation and world heading down that path, it has always led to destruction. Always. And I guess that's where we're heading. Anyways, I just wanted to let you guys know I'm being who I am. All right, I'm not going to participate in a system any more than I have to that I find is, self-destructive. I'm not going to destroy myself or feed a system that is destructive and cruel and evil. Anyways, let's move along here. I want to start with comments from Dana. Prepping for mixed families, socialist versus conservatives, both with kids. Socialists think that prepping is for crazy people. I think Dana's question is, what do you do about that? Well, you give them hello, you tell them get prepared, and you're not responsible for them. It just falls right into the first thing I wanted to talk about. That's it. We can't continue to support everyone else and fall into this ridiculous communist collective mentality and then change who we are to satisfy them and change our lives to please and care for others. There's an idea that we should help others. And then there's the idea that we need to support them their entire lives. There's a big difference between the two. And it's always good and easy for me to help somebody who's helping themselves rather than be continually called on to help somebody who has no intent of ever helping themselves or doing a little bit and expecting the burden to be carried by everyone else. I have no compassion for them, and for that reason, I have very few family members that I deal with. And that may sound cold and cruel, or family comes first. Not if they aren't my brother. Not if they're not my sisters. If they are not of sound mind and body, if they're the opposite of me, how can they be me? They're not. They're part of another problem. Sebastian writes, Bonjour, John. Let's figure parents have all the needs for the family in their bug-out bag. A 10-year-old kid can carry his own bug-out bag. What can we put in their kit? Everything they need for whatever the mission is. If it's a 1-day hike, a 3-day hike, right? If shit hits the fan, you got to bug out. Hopefully your kid, 10 years old, 15 years old, whatever, has a basic understanding of what's going on. You don't want to scare them to death saying the world's going to end, but say, the world has changed, we have an emergency, it's only going to be for a little while, hopefully, but you got to pull your own weight. And it's interesting to note that when you give a child responsibility, a human being, they accept it because now they have a job and they're important. Don't discount kids and their ability to think and perform and be strong. Kids are smart. When you treat them like kids, they act like kids. When you treat them like a human being, they'll act like it. Righteous Rooster writes, John, I've been the go-to guy because I have always seemed to be everyone's solution. Now, after culling the herd, I find myself prepared but alone. A group to share 3 decades of know-how or just the basic needs, which is is my goal. Try as I do, it eludes me. Okay. I'll continue here. It has been my call to patriots near and far. If it is in you, learn. I'm seeking real Christian folk, male or female. I'm used up in body only. All I have is hereby donated to you. If you're worthy, let me know here. Let's rock. Let's talk the talk. Share politics. Or just plain don't care. I'm convinced as a loner the 3 decades of preps will wind up being used against the very Constitution I die for. Righteous Rooster, I think you share in a lot of the discouragement of being a prepper that many of us do. If you have had, say, dozens of people around you and you've culled them away, it's because you've been the man, the person that you are, and you've set an expectation level for yourself and for others. And if people haven't met that, in other words, they want a free ride. Yeah, I'll be a prepper when the emergency happens. They're fair weather friends. They're fair weather family. And unfortunately, that is the state of humanity. You know, and I don't want to sound hardcore and defeatist or insensitive and cold, but I understand where he's at. But what he's saying is he wants good people because he wants what he has done. He wants to pass it along. And I had this conversation with a compatriot yesterday regarding my desire to pass along information, to learn as much as I could, pass along information, and then also pass the torch of responsibility. Right? I don't want to be a prepper till I'm 90. I don't want to be the one at the microphone. I don't want to be the one in front of the camera. I don't want to carry the torch out front forever, in other words. I don't want to be the lead prepper, I should say. I wouldn't mind taking a secondary position or a tertiary position and just relaxing, enjoying life a little more, right? Retiring, and whatever words or thoughts you want to put to it. But Righteous Rooster has gotten there. He's like, you know what? 3 decades. I'm watching these people destroy the country. What do I do? Well, when shit does hit the fan, I guarantee you are going to be a popular guy. And you're going to continue to have to cull out the ding-dongs. Unfortunately, I don't think we get a break. Right? We're in it to win it. Or we're all going to have to take a bite of this shit sandwich, if you will. It's 30 years ago, I believed we, the United States of America, were still in an ascendancy. And that we just had a few problems to deal with and that we could fix. In the last 30 years, I have an ever-increasing belief that America and the Anglo-American Empire is in a descendancy. We are in a state of spiraling decadence. And it's obvious and clear to me now that we've probably been doing that for quite some time. The thing that has saved us from a crushing, destructive crash is empires don't crumble overnight. They take anywhere from 20, 30, 50 years to a couple of 100 years. because it's not a single decision that destroys it, it's many decisions over time that destroy it. Just like it took a couple of decades to get to the Civil War. It wasn't one debate in Washington that resulted in the Civil War of the 1860s. It took decades of abuse and stupidity, and we had a big change, you know. So the upshot here for Righteous Rooster and everyone who's in a similar boat: prepare for yourself and just put everyone else away. Prepare and continue to look for people. Wait, and as shit hits the fan, good people will come to you. If you're a righteous rooster, I'm assuming you're a Christian guy, right? So let's assume that God has a plan for you. And you are being the man you were put here to be. And we all have whatever comes to us, right? There's a purpose and a plan for everyone if you want to go on the grounds of faith. And it'll be made clear to you when time comes, right? But don't lose faith, don't lose heart. But you know, this is just the game that has to be played, and it takes some time. Interesting thoughts and concepts just to mull over in your head. Chris writes, Q, I'll believe it when I see it. Can't find much evidence to support the claims of a global debt facility established after World War II. I'll just address this, Chris, as a Q issue. Q is an interesting thing. I've seen some interesting stuff that makes you go, wow, I wonder if that's real. But the continual promises of it's coming and this is coming and that's coming and it's going to happen, it's been going on for 2 years and nothing has happened. Now we have the Inspector General report coming out on December 11th or 12th, December 11th. And they're supposed to be 500 pages. And it's supposed to be followed up. Now, they said the report's coming. It's 500 pages. It's December 11th or 12th, whatever the date is. Everyone else is reading into what that means. The Mueller report was dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of pages. And it contained jack shit. So, I'm hopeful, but I'm not putting any money on the table. Q has been promising forever. We're all hopeful something good happens, but I'm not putting any money on Q. I think it is an extremely elaborate game. Okay. Moving along to Penelope. On a recent hunting and camping trip, I discovered a couple of things. First, I'm completely addicted to technology. Never considered that before because I've always been glad to get away from it for a few days. This time, not so much. I was horribly frustrated with the lack of Wi-Fi. Interesting thought to bring up. I notice the same thing about myself, and I definitely notice about others, is we have become addicted to it. The need for instant gratification for the purposes of entertainment, entertainment or information itself. It used to be, you get up in the morning, sip some coffee, maybe watch the morning news, come home at the end of the day, play with the kids, eat some dinner, watch the evening news local and the national news, ABC, NBC, CBS, and then you got your fix. You're like, okay, and you didn't even have to watch that every day. You're like, hey, someone mentioned something or it came on the radio and I heard something, and then you follow up. Now we have become used to it. Now, what I will tell you is that addiction, as painful as it is, should give you an idea. And this is where my mind takes off with ideas. It'll give you an idea how much worse off everyone else will be when shit hits the fan. You mention in here food. You mention in here other things in your comments, Penelope. But what's important is to note the addictive qualities of our technology, of our standard of living, and of our decadence as a society, culture, and nation. Meaning people are used to getting their fix when it comes to food. Popeye chicken sandwiches, right? Thanks, Vaughn with Backcountry Preppers for doing a Popeye's chicken sandwich taste test. Luckily, he didn't take a bite and start punching people. But this idea that I want it now and I'm going to get it, or else. Drug users, both prescription drug and illegal drugs. People want it and they want it now. They're addicted to it and they've got to have that fix and they can get it satisfied. People are not used to the idea of delayed gratification. That is, you work now and later you'll get paid. The idea comes into play with farming or gardening. You plant and you wait for your flowers. You plant and you wait for your fruits and vegetables. You have to put in a bunch of work and then hope it pays off. I worked, give me my money, I'm going to the store, I'm getting everything I want. When shit hits the fan, people are going to lose their shit. They're losing it in drive-ins or drive-thrus at restaurants. Right? People are going to lose it. And that's why you need self-defense. That's why people go, yeah, they say we got 3 months worth or 3 days worth of food, but people, they can make it longer. They can't make it 15 minutes in a drive-thru without losing their shit, some people. So, we go, that's extreme, John. Well, guess what? Maybe the next person is half an hour. After 1 hour of waiting, now you've got 3% of the population saying, I'm about to punch somebody. I can't take it. How about after 2 hours? Now you're up to 10%. 3 hours of waiting for a meal, 50%. The curve goes like this. The longer they're going to have to wait, the higher a percentage are going to demand whatever it is they need satisfied. You got discomfort, Penelope, from no Wi-Fi because you had a mental desire. When you get your information, just like me and everyone else, we get a little dopamine kick, right? You get a little mental drug. Oh, yeah, good. Everything's fine. Or, damn it, I knew it. These people suck. Whatever it is, we get that rush. That happy, good feeling. And we get it satisfied all the time. We are addicts. We're dopamine addicts. And when I was younger, I rode a race rocket. You know, everywhere I went was a race. And I became addicted to adrenaline. I was an adrenaline junkie. And I had one medium speed wreck. And then shortly after that, I sold the motorcycle lifestyle and moved away from it. But I became addicted to it, and when I realized, wait a minute, I almost got in one of the wildest wrecks ever. I got lucky and didn't wreck at all, and I realized it's time to give this up because I did that, and I didn't have any adrenaline feeling at all. I couldn't feel it. I just kept going and rolled on the throttle and put a knee to the ground and went screaming around the next corner. I should, this is important, this concept, not my story. The concept of how people react. They are so addicted to getting everything they want. Drugs, food, information, a feeling of safety. People want to feel safe. And so they're willing to give up all kinds of things. And when they don't feel safe, and when they're hungry and they're thirsty and they're scared, and they're not getting the information and they're not getting their drugs, the human response is fight or flight. And within flight, I include not only running, but hiding, sleeping, becoming despondent, incredibly depressed right away. And the other one is fight. They become angry. They want revenge. They want to satisfy their discomfort by getting some sort of justice. That's why we want to be preppers and why food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, and means of self-defense. You need the self-defense and a self-defense plan that you need to be practiced at so that when it happens, if this becomes a problem for you, you are ready to address it. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to Billy the Goat. Birth control and shit hits the fan. Do you want to take the chance on getting a wife or girlfriend pregnant? I know women have been giving birth since day one without modern medicine, but childbirth can thin the herd. We'll just stop right there. And yeah, I used to call it infant mortality. There was a certain percentage that of pregnancies that would terminate, that infants would be stillborn or would die early on because of the way nature works. Today, and for the last 100 years basically, medicine and the practice of medicine or doctoring, an understanding of everything, has allowed medicine to have or allow more babies to continue to exist. or to live, right? So the birth rate or infant mortality is very, 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 very low. With the return to shitting the fan, hard life, lack of medicine, lack of care, that rate I think would go higher than it was 100 years ago, infant mortality, because there's a lack of understanding of how childbirth works, what's necessary, and people handling it on their own. I'm not saying, everyone's going to die and moms are all going to die, but it happens and it's part of life. Additionally, now sex for us is a recreational activity. You want to BJ, you want to have sex, there's birth control, you don't worry about it. It's for fun. It's entertainment, it's relaxing, it's therapeutic, it's good for relationship, keeping a relationship healthy because you're interested in each other. If you're having sex, you're not on the phone. But, in the old days, and by old days, I mean, pre-birth control, people had to think about it. Am I willing to risk a pregnancy? Can I afford another child? Is it that important to me? And then sex was put off. So it's a personal decision, but it's interesting to think about. A lot of people are not going to realize, oh yeah, there's real consequences for having sex. That again is the unprepared people out there who think they're still entitled to do whatever they want and there's no consequences. And if something bad happens, it's someone else's problem to take care of. That's another symptom of the problem we face in this, messed up world we've got. All right, Kevin Huff writes, 40% of the U.S. are above average and want to be left alone to prosper. 40% of the U.S. are below average and volunteer as slave to the ruling elite. The remaining 20% bounce between wanting to be free to prosper and slaves during hard times. The problem is what to do when the world quits lending to the U.S. This question has been partially answered in Detroit. The taxpayers leave and the city has to rely on the state and federal government for funds. This can't happen when most states are bankrupt. I think the canary in the coal mine will be wealthy suburbs of bankrupt cities raided by criminals. When Silicon Valley riots, the end has come. Kevin, it's a very interesting thing you talk about. I watched a very fascinating video thanks to another R Syndicate Prepared Mind Network contributor. And it has to do with the country, and the name of the country I can't remember. It's a former Soviet area. It was under the Soviet Union. And once again, it's in Western Russia. It's a country now, but you would never know the name because it was a province or a county or a state in terms of how the Soviet Union thought of things. But when the Soviet Union fell, the industry there, the city there, had nothing to do and no money to do it with. It used to produce airplanes, it used to produce other things, and now it produces nothing. The population has left. They have gone to other areas where there is economic prosperity. So much like Flint, Michigan, Detroit, they're just wastelands. But where are you going to go when you have an overall collapse? In Russia, they managed to get it together enough. Putin, the evil bastard, was able to work and get the country going again. But there are going to be areas. And the worse the crash, the more people depend on others and the government, the worse the crash will be. Our country is becoming so dependent on others that they can't live for 3 days without losing their shit. I think it's going to be worse for our country, the United States, unless something good happens. And I think something good can happen, and I hope something good will happen, and we just get a shit-it's-the-fan light. But a shit-it's-the-fan light will be very much like the Soviet Union collapse. There's no money. The wealth has been sucked out of it and retained by some very wealthy people. People that didn't want to work, well, they're screwed, and people that want to work, well, guess what? You're screwed. This other country, it looked like a ghost town. I mean, there's people here and there. There's no young people to speak of, really. It's all older people who have enough to get by, and the area creates enough to sustain them. But the young people who want a chance to prosper through life leave and go somewhere else. Where do they go? A friend of mine said Ukraine. Well, that would explain, they go to areas where there's money and prosperity and they try. But it's going to be a shit show. Okay. R. Kings writes, the saying is, as California goes, so goes the nation. I've heard that quite a bit, Mr. King. What are your thoughts on Cal Exit and its UN connection? Their use of violent means and chaos to achieve success. Valerie Jarrett, Eric Holder, Pelosi, Beto, cartel paid off, ex-president of Mexico, Nieto, and CIA involvement. Also the competing movement, New California. If you would like more details or research guidance, I have read enough on that, Mr. King. I appreciate the offer. I do continue to get more information. Cal Exit, that is California seceding from the nation. There are probably, it's hard to call them legitimate concepts or ideas because I don't think of them as legitimate, but there are many proposed ideas for California. Leave the union, split into 2 states, split into 3 states, give 2/3 of the state back to the Native American population. There's a number of ideas. Then there's what's really happening, Cal Exit, with the population. People who are more conservative, freedom-minded, people who want to keep what they've earned are willing to leave. Unfortunately, there's varying degrees of mentality in this state, and many of the Californians leave and bring their half-baked socialist concepts, thinking they're more freedom-minded, to other states, and they're destroying other states, turning Nevada blue, turning Idaho blue, they've turned Colorado blue, they've turned New Mexico blue, they're turning other states blue, that is Democrat. So that's a form of Cal Exit that they're, this idea that the UN and there's a conspiracy and these assholes that were named are part of it. They do want to divide, conquer, be divisive, defeat the Constitution. That's what they want to defeat, is the Constitution. And when you defeat the Constitution, you defeat America. As California is defeated, yes, the rest of the nation is defeated. California is a massive income-producing state. GDP, it used to really produce, and it's hard for me to believe that it produces what it once did. But if you just talk about raw wealth, you've got Silicon Valley, you've got the agricultural community, you've got the mining communities, you've got the timber industry, what's left of it. You have the service industry that's in California, import export. It's a big deal, California is, but it's being taken apart and dismantled. And as it becomes less prosperous, and as more divisiveness is sewn into the cultural and social fabric, it will split up and break up. And there are going to be it's the fan problems. And as it's happening in California, guess what? It's happening around the country. It's happening in New York. New York has hated New York City for a long time because it's a giant population center controlling the rest of the geography. Illinois. There's good people in Illinois. Good people in Illinois. But you think about Illinois and you go, Chicago. There's many places in the country. Texas is on the verge of flipping blue. I'm not worried about it yet. But at some point, I hope to not give a fuck and worry at all about any state. But Texas is getting on the wall. Why? Why is it on the line, on the wall? Because it is a border state. They're bringing in as many illegals to vote as they can. You have the relocation. People going, Texas is awesome. Yahoo! Right? Woo! Texas. I love Texans, by the way. But there's cities in Texas that are now absolutely blue. And people are fleeing blue states going, I'm going to Texas to be free. And once again, they bring their stupid fucking concepts with them. And it's starting and has been turning Texas blue. Right? Damn Texicans, I'm sorry about that shit. It's not my fault. When I vote for freedom. Anyways, be that as it may, yeah, Cal Exit, as California goes, so goes the nation. In fact, some states are so good that they're going to beat California to the stupid punch. All right, let's move along here. Jerome writes, hey, John, I'm asking for some advice. I know in the past video you shared with us that you lived in Sacramento at one point. I'm moving there in a couple of weeks and wanted some suggestions on where might be the best part to live in within the surrounding areas. I have a family that are willing to put me up until I move into my own spot. I understand it's predominantly Damascrats, so I'm asking where would be the most ideal area to live in Sacramento, according to your experience. If you can afford it, move into the Roseville, Rockland area to the north, just because it is... more affluent. It's nicer. There's less crime. And that is based on reports from some friends that still deal with the Sacramento area. But it's interesting, the demographics have changed, but they've been changing for 25 years as I watched. Actually, since 1980, I've watched Sacramento, but as an adult, I watched, and everything slowly moved north. You know, the first mall to close down was down in Florin, South Sacramento. They closed down the Florin Mall. And then Sunrise Mall, which is, you know, you can call it mid-metropolis, it's now closed down and has been closed down for some time because of crime and shit in the middle of Sacramento. And the Galleria up in the north area, up in Rockland, you know, it's still there, and you can go there and you'll see all the California dipshits, you know, man buns and metrosexuals and gaudy women. And so that's probably the safest area, but it's much more expensive. So you gotta fit where you fit. I don't recommend North Highlands. Actually, not North Highlands. Well, there's an area just north of the river where if you want to get in a fight, you could probably go get in a fight. But there's a lot of areas like that. Anyways, I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to have to stop because this has taken so much time. There's such great questions and comments, and then I'll do another one to follow up. You know, I'll have to give you guys a break. You got lives too. Lisa B writes, "Hey John, I had a short question. What do you know about the votes in our Congress coming up on the USMCA? Is it possible that all this border stuff is connected to that? That once this pact goes through, we will be like the European Union?" Well, they've been threatening that for a long time, Lisa. The North American Union, and we would have the Amero instead of the dollar, like the Europeans have the euro. They've been threatening it a long time. We are seeing a gradual move towards globalism, obviously. We had the NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, and so now we have the USMCA, which is supposed to be a fix for that, but it's still not really good. I think that we should be able to come to trade agreements on an individual basis. How fucking hard is it? Why do we have to have a large regional set of rules that we are mandated to comply with? It is an abandonment of sovereignty to a basic degree, and it serves globalist interests. I'm not worried about any impact hitting us in the next 2 years. I'm more worried about shit hitting the fan and an economic collapse. And the USMCA has to do with the economy and trade and other things, but we need to get away from that and stop kowtowing and bowing to globalists. And that is the fight that only Donald Trump has been taking on. Every other president has been kissing ass, sucking up, and taking the payments to go that way. That is why we're in the trouble we're in. And God bless Ross Perot, who came out and said we'd have a giant sucking sound if we did NAFTA, and we have had a giant sucking sound. The sound of our jobs and our corporations, our manufacturing, our businesses, taking their money and jobs overseas and selling us back cheap junk and telling us we should be happy about the fact that we don't have great jobs anymore. There it is. I'll see you in the next installment of getting to all these questions. Chance favors, the prepared mind is yours. Talk to you soon.